Welcome to part 2 of 50 hard CISSP questions. If part 1 clicked, you already have the tool you need. One quick note before we start. To keep this video crisp, I will not always read the full question and every option out loud. So for each question, pause the video and read the scenario and the 4 options first. Then let me walk you through the thinking. It will make the explanations much easier to follow. Quick reset on the filter before we dive in. 4 steps. Frame. You are the risk manager, not the technician. Sequence. Scope before you act. Governance before controls. Priority. Life safety. Then evidence. Then systems. And root cause over symptom. Authority. Act within governance and let the risk owner own the risk. Frame, sequence, priority, authority. The questions here climb into level 8, so the wrong answers get more tempting. Watch the same 4 steps, knock them down. Question 18. 2 problems, share 1 answer. The same defect categories keep coming back. And the auditor wants the next release to carry no known findings. Option A adds a release gate and assesses more often. That satisfies the auditor, but never asks why the defects recur, so you keep finding them. Option C retrains the teams and escalates repeats. That blames people when the life cycle may be leaking defects upstream. Option D expands scanning and accepts low-severity residual findings. That neither stops the recurrence nor fully meets the bar. Option B finds where the defects enter the life cycle, fixes that upstream process, and keeps the verified release gate. Fix the source, keep the gate. That is the pattern. Question 19. The requirement pulls 2 ways. You need comparable assurance across very different teams, and the assessment must reflect the company's own risks. A framework the auditors already know is sitting right there. Option A builds an internal framework from scratch first. That throws away the head start and misses the deadline. Option B adopts the external framework unchanged, comparable, but blind to the company's specific risks. Option C sets common vulnerability counts and lets each team pick tools. That produces numbers, not real assurance against shared objectives. Option D uses the external framework as a baseline, then tailors risk-based criteria to shared control objectives. Standard for comparability, tailored for relevance. That is the pattern. Question 20. This is a discipline question. The recovery plan set declaration thresholds in advance, so no one has to debate in the moment, and the telemetry now meets them. Option B prepares failover, while the team refines a duration estimate. That is, hesitation dressed up as prudence. Option C tells executives the thresholds are met and waits for their preference. That hands away the authority the plan gave the commander. Option D fails over informally and declares afterward. That runs the recovery outside the governance meant to authorize it. Option A formally declares the disaster under the approved criteria and starts the authorized sequence. When the pre-agreed trigger is met, pull it. That is the pattern. Question 21. Split brain is making things worse every second. The partition left both sites accepting rights. Conflicting records are piling up. The first job is to stop the divergence, not to sort out what already diverged. Option A restores the heartbeat and lets election pick a primary. Passive, and it may not settle quickly while conflicts grow. Option C makes both sites read-only and picks records by timestamp. That halts service on both and jumps to a lossy merge. Option D auto-reconciles while both nodes keep writing. That reconciles a target that keeps moving. Option B enforces fencing or quorum, so one site stops writing before any reconciliation begins. Stop the bleeding to a single writer first, then reconcile. That is the pattern. Question 22. One person changed the financial schema, then approved the wire transfers. Say that out loud, and the control names itself. The risk is a toxic combination of duties in one identity. Option A adds 2-person approval on transfers but keeps the admin's database duties. The same person can still both change and benefit. Option B issues just-in-time sessions and reviews schema changes later. That records the problem but does not prevent the combination. Option D requires change board approval and quarterly recertification. Process around it without actually splitting the two powers. Option C redesigns roles so no single identity can both change financial schemas and authorize the transfers. Separation of duties aims straight at the toxic pair. That is the pattern. Question 23. Defects slip past a scanner that reports all clear. And the honest truth is, no one yet knows where the gap is. Requirements, scanner coverage, runtime tests. Every wrong answer picks one and starts fixing on a hunch. Option B adds dynamic tests everywhere. That bets the gap is runtime. Option C expands static rules and adds manual review. That bets it is scanner coverage. Option D reviews every auth change by hand for 2 releases. Brute force that never finds the cause. Option A maps the authentication abuse cases to requirements, controls, and test evidence to locate exactly where coverage is missing. Find the hole before you spend effort patching walls that may be fine. That is the pattern. Question 24. A peer just had a cross-tenant leak on similar infrastructure. The savings are tempting, so the pull is to jump straight to testing or negotiating. But you cannot judge the provider's evidence until you know what it has to prove. Option A, independently test the provider's isolation. That acts before requirements are defined, and it is often not even allowed. Option B negotiates stronger separation and liability terms first. That bargains before you know which outcomes you need. Option C weighs the savings against the likelihood and impact. That runs the risk math before defining the control objectives it depends on. Option D determines the required control outcomes, then checks whether the provider's evidence and commitments meet them. Define what good looks like, then measure the provider. That is the pattern. Question 25. Compliant is not the same as secure. This question lives in that gap. The audit says the mandated controls pass, but threat modeling shows real exposure to attacks active right now. And the budget is already committed. Committed, though, is not the same as well spent. Option A keeps the plan, monitors the threat, and asks for money next cycle. That accepts a live exposure and hopes time is on your side. Option C asks executives to accept the exposure until a future redesign. That makes risk acceptance the opening move against an active threat. Option D moves money off mandated controls and logs a compliance exception. That deliberately breaks the compliance you paid for. Option B maps the committed spend to its outcomes, then reprioritizes the discretionary parts to cover the threat without breaking compliance. Find the give inside the budget before accepting the risk. That is the pattern. Question 26. The directive sets a deadline. It hands you no list of what is affected. And that missing list is the whole problem. You cannot migrate cryptography you cannot see. Option A stands up a crypto center of excellence. That builds a governance body before anyone knows the scope. Option B updates the standard and bans new deprecated algorithms. That stops new bleeding but ignores everything already deployed. Option D requests a budget based on a system count you have not produced. Option C inventories cryptographic use and dependencies first to find the affected systems, modules, certificates, and trust relationships. Discover the footprint before you govern it, budget it, or standardize it. That is the pattern. Quick pause. These questions come from the RooCloud database. You can try a free, full-length CISSP adaptive test on RooCloud.com to practice with more questions like these and see the platform for yourself. Question 27. Zero Trust is a program, not a product. And programs live or die on governance before technology. Leadership is on board, but worried the controls will disrupt critical work. That tension is exactly what governance manages. Option B pilots enforcement points and measures success by help desk tickets. That builds before anyone agreed what success is. Option C updates the standards first. That sets technical direction before deciding who owns exceptions and how outcomes are measured. Option D lets each business unit set its own balance. That fragments the enterprise into inconsistent trust. Option A defines the outcomes, the decision rights, and the measures that will govern a phased rollout. Agree what you are trying to achieve and who decides, then build. That is the pattern. Question 28. A legacy controller cannot run modern endpoint controls. Replacing it needs a funded shutdown next cycle. But you can strengthen segmentation and privileged access today. 2 horizons. And the answer must serve both. Option A accepts the exposure until the money arrives. That does nothing while you clearly could. Option B calls the strengthened segmentation the permanent fix. That quietly blesses an aging, unsupported device forever. Option C prioritizes replacement but keeps current connectivity meanwhile. That leaves the gap wide open in the interim. Option D applies the available compensating controls now and approves a funded, phased retirement with review milestones. Reduce the risk today and commit to removing its cause on a real schedule. That is the pattern. Question 29. The constraint is non-negotiable. The safety controllers must stay segmented from corporate, yet engineers still need accountable, interactive sessions. The wrong answers all quietly dissolve that boundary. Option A federates the controllers straight to the enterprise identity provider. That wires the safety network to corporate. Option C extends corporate access agents onto the controllers. That pushes enterprise software into the segmented zone. Option D issues short-lived VPN certificates to the management ports. That is, direct connectivity by another name. Option B brokers approve sessions through a hardened jump service that maps enterprise users to separate OT scope privileges. Accountability through identity, segmentation through the broker, without collapsing the boundary. That is the pattern. Question 30. Read the requirements as a spec, and one control fits exactly. Analysts must never see or recover the real payment identifiers. They need consistent replacement values, so joins still work. And the re-identification service must live outside their environment. Option A uses dynamic masking with a different value per query. That destroys the joins the analysts depend on. Option B publishes nightly masked views and walls off the sources. That still may not give stable keys, and it boxes in the analytics. Option D processes in a secure enclave, but then hands analysts unmasked rows. That breaks the first rule outright. Option C tokenizes identifiers before ingestion using a separately controlled vault and stable, non-reversible tokens. Consistent for joins, irreversible for safety, and the vault stays out of reach. That is the pattern. Question 31. The word that governs this design is occasional. The vendor needs admin access now and then, yet holds a standing privileged account all the time, and standing privilege is the risk. Option B keeps a standing account with stronger authentication and alerts. The always-on account is still there. Option C confines that account to a monitored jump host with a monthly review. More oversight, but the privilege never goes away. Option D issues a time-limited VPN per request while leaving permanent admin rights on the targets. That fixes the wrong layer. Option A uses a privileged access workflow that grants time-bound rights for approved work, records the session, and revokes access afterward, with room for emergencies. Grant privilege only when needed, then take it back. That is the pattern. Question 32. The requirement is preventive and specific. A compromised plugin must not be able to request privileged execution or reach root on its node. Detection after the fact does not meet a must not. Option A isolates plugins on a dedicated node pool that separates them but still lets a privileged container run. Option B kills containers when it sees privileged syscalls. That is reactive, acting only once the escalation starts. Option C scans images for critical vulnerabilities. That addresses the supply chain, not a runtime privilege request. Option D enforces restricted admission control with narrowly governed exceptions outside customer control, so a privileged pod is refused at the gate. Prevent it from ever being admitted, rather than catching it after. That is the pattern. Question 33. A root CA key is the most consequential secret an enterprise creates, and policy already demands dual control and auditable custody. Sequence is everything. Option A generates the key in a hardware module, then documents the procedure afterward. That performs the ceremony before it was authorized and documents it backwards. Option C generates it on an air-gapped workstation and imports it later. That means the key existed outside the protected boundary, weakening the custody chain. Option D uses the cloud provider's general-purpose key service and exports an offline copy. That creates exactly the exportable, weakly controlled key the policy forbids. Option B approves the ceremony and custody roles first, then generates and keeps the root key inside an approved hardware module. Authorize the ceremony, then create the key inside the boundary. That is the pattern. Question 34. This is Harvest-now-decrypt-later. Adversaries are recording the traffic today to break it with a future quantum computer. So the secrecy is already leaking into the future. The good news, the endpoints support an approved hybrid key exchange right now. Option A shortens the rekey intervals. That just gives the attacker more classical keys to eventually break. Option B inventories all cryptography and defers any change until a roadmap. That delays an available fix for a threat that is active. Option D wraps another tunnel using a different classical algorithm. Still classical, still quantum breakable. Option C enables the hybrid exchange on the exposed links now, while planning the broader migration. Deploy the quantum-resistant option where the exposure is real, then scale it out. That is the pattern. That closes part 2. These questions come from the RooCloud database. You can try a free full-length CISSP adaptive test on RooCloud.com to practice with more questions like these and check out our platform. Join me in part 3.